Welcome back to the Variety Pack Podcast. This is a brand new podcast for all of you to listen and enjoy. Centered around 4 buds, 6 beers, and 1 podcast with a variety of different topics. We're going to try and touch on a couple of different themes today. But first, I'd like to introduce our hosts for the evening. Over here on my left, we have Mr. Shane. Say hello.
Hello.
And over there, looking all mopey, we got Adam.
Bitch ass.
Coming at us via teleconference all the way from Austin, Texas, we have Ron Zilla once again.
What's up?
And I will be your 4th host of the evening. My name is Jonny. So, without any further ado, I do want to...
Johnny Shoreport.
I would like to,
Johnny Shoreport.
I would like to jump in and say, let's crack the first beer.
Yeah.
Sir.
Let's get her.
Let's crack open our first beer from this here 6-pack. I actually brought 5. Ron, how many beers do you have?
I have 2, so we have a 7-pack.
2.
I want to hear yours
All right,
first
well,
one. Ron.
All right, so I'm going to crack the first one.
What do you got?
I got the shakes. I need to hurry up and get something down here.
I got the shakes. I just need to... I need a hit so bad.
So this...
I haven't had a beer.
I brought Friends and Allies Brewing, which is a brewery in Austin, Texas. So pretty solid.
Nice.
This one is their Fresh Coast IPA. I guess kind of... it's got a tropical fruit, pine, citrus type thing going on, but it's not like a typical hazy one. It's more like a
Dry?
traditional. What's that?
Is it dry?
It's a little juicy, but I don't want to say it's, it's got more of a traditional hop forward to it and less of the juiciness. So.
Have Texas breweries been getting into any of the brute IPAs?
Oh, they have been. There was a little bit of a phase. I feel like it's almost over. So someone does a double brew. Almost every brewery came out with a brew, but they're interesting. I like it.
Yeah, we've had a few around here. I haven't really had one that I really enjoyed yet.
Yeah, they don't wow me, but they're good for something different, and they're kind of like the opposite of a juicy. Wow.
Just
Wow.
wow west.
Yeah, it comes with, but since it comes off drier, I think it's an interesting change compared to whatever the market's getting saturated with haziness. So.
I kind of think that's why they gained so much popularity so fast, is because of how juicy everything was getting.
Yeah.
People were getting tired of it, so now they're like, get me the driest IPA you can muster. I want my mouth to feel like the Sahara Desert when I finish drinking.
Yeah,
That looks like a Johnny.
I know. I was trying to make Johnny proud.
You got a good head on your shoulders, boy. All right, so
What do you guys have for your first one?
our first one, it's the Saranac Polar Haze IPA, 6% alcohol, 50 IBUs, in a little baby can. I figure we start out slow. And this comes all the way from Utica, here in the NY.
It's very good. Saranac, usually they haven't went into the New England or juicy, version of beer yet. And so this was like their first.
When Saranac first
time,
came
Johnny.
out, they were obviously like they took over Matt's Brewing, but I feel like they were just kind of a so-so brewery, but they really stepped it up. I feel like in the past 6 years
they've
or so.
really stepped up their craft
I really
game.
like their Gen V series that they do. All the different IPAs every year.
Oh, and they also do the fresh hop ones too that they harvest locally. Yeah, that's cool. I ran the Boilermaker one year, and they had a bunch of Saranac on top that you could just get as much as you wanted.
Oh my
Cheers,
God.
boys.
I'm clinking it virtually.
Beer of the day. Did you just say you're clinking it?
This is just fantastic.
This is just fantastic.
It's a very good beer.
Bitch ass.
So-
yeah.
I like how it's smooth,
You know,
but still got the haziness.
I like how
a
you
little
almost said
bit.
just basic, but you said just fantastic instead. But it sounded like you were going to go with this is just
I'm
basic.
drinking it. It reminds me of the time I used to
This
make
is-
snow. Back in the Catskills, you know.
Don't you know? Yeah.
You ever been in a polar haze before?
No.
That's when you step outside and it's really sunny and really snowy at the same time, and so you can't see a damn thing.
Oh yeah, we probably have then.
Literally Central New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all living the polar haze life out here.
That's why they came up with it.
Yeah,
You didn't know?
yeah, but yeah.
Well, that beer went quick. I took that in one sip.
Yeah. So seeing as we're enjoying our first beer in a nice leisurely setting, let's talk about a good relaxing topic.
Or Shane enjoyed his first beer.
Let's talk about a good relaxing topic that nobody ever gets bent out of shape about, politics. And I'm going to kind of let Ron and Shane take the lead on this one here, but we're going to be talking about Beto O'Rourke running for president.
Let's
of the
bring up
United
Shane.
States.
Bring up why you want to talk about him, bud. First of all,
So I brought him up was just because, I just saw today on the news that in 24 hours he raised 6.1 million. You're right, you said, or 6.4 million, something like that.
6.1.
In 24 hours for his fundraising for his campaign for president.
What was his mode of raising the money? Do you know?
Just campaigning.
Oh, just
Just
campaigning.
like people donations and like basically what all of this.
I think it was an online campaign.
The interesting part about that was, though, since he just ran for Senate in Texas, he kind of never stopped campaigning after that, so he definitely has a head start. Because even before he officially said, I'm going to come out and run for president.
Yeah, and I recently actually saw him on, I think it was The View, like...
Why were you watching The View, Adam?
It's just on Channel 9 throughout the day. My
Oh,
mom
okay.
leaves Channel 9 on after the news.
Likely story, okay.
It is a likely story because I fucking...
He
hate
likes
The
listening
View.
to
It's
middle-aged
the
women.
worst show ever.
Yeah.
No, I can't stand
Not
their
that there's
fucking
nothing
liberal-
against it.
I cannot stand their liberal views. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. But anyway, I saw him on The View or something like that, and he was all talking like he was like, oh, he wasn't like fully committing to being president, but he was all like, oh, I'm thinking about it. But I got to talk with my family because family's the most important, he kept saying.
He's a quirky individual, like on a lot of levels. I feel like he tries to buy into like he's a cool hip guy, and then he also tries to buy into like he's a serious politician. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, with the whole situation is like now there's this big thing talking about how he was doing illegal things, even though like I understand everybody does things when they're young, such as teenagers and that, but like he was doing like some serious illegal things, like hacking into people's like accounts and like what'd you say? You said there was a big thing with the church, right? Of Scientology.
yeah. So he's part of that hacking collective in the mid '90s that like launched a cyber
Cult of the
war.
dead cow, right?
Yeah, that launched a cyber war against Church of Scientology and I guess Microsoft. I got to read why Microsoft but probably just because they were.
Is that anything to do with the anonymous guys?
No, I think it was like a pre-anonymous thing, kind of like just a hacking collective. Similar though.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I watched a documentary about Bitcoin, and I think that they mentioned that some of those guys, they were all like 4chan guys.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Anonymous came off of 4chan and that whole thing, and then the lolsec came from that and Anonymous and everything. So I thought when I first read this article about him being a former hacker, I thought, oh, here we go, like he's trying to get credibility. But then you read the article and you're like, oh, I don't know if he should really be admitting all that if he's gonna run for president. But
Well, right, because like everybody got angry at the prospect of Donald Trump somehow manipulating results. But how can you ever trust a guy running for president that is capable?
and they
of
said he
doing
stole
that?
long distance phone like connections
for years. That's illegal.
which is illegal. So I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually wire fraud.
My question is, I thought like to be a president, you have to have a pretty like squeaky clean record.
Or perceived, at least. Like it has to. If you did anything, it has to be hidden, right?
Well, so I guess this is my question, and like the biggest one I have after hearing all this is like he raised all that money so fast, and everybody's kind of surprised by it. But how do we know he didn't just fucking steal that money from somebody, like wire it to himself from like foreign accounts and stuff? Like if he's proven that, or at least admitted to being capable of doing something like that, then how do we know that's legitimate?
Yeah,
you know, or it's not just people trolling the internet by like paying him all this money.
I think it's a fine line because the politicians are. It's getting to the point where I think I talked about this a few years ago, where basically like people are. It's going to be a certain point where you can't hide your past anymore because of online and how things move so fast now. So I think there's going to be a generation of politicians that are just going to have to come forward and be like, yeah, I used to do all this stuff. Because someone's going to find out anyway, you know?
Or they're literally going to have to be like perfect citizens.
Well, and nobody's
saying
perfect, you know, so that's the hard part. Like,
It's like the devil you know
So
situation.
we're going to have to come up with like a system of like for ourselves.
What's acceptable.
Of, like dictating what's acceptable and not acceptable for our candidates because it's going to come out.
Because I guess nowadays is like the law. You're beyond the law if you're running for president.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
true. Is he a Texas statesman?
Yeah, didn't you say something about Texas, Zilla? What happened in the race down there?
Yeah.
Is he from
yeah,
there?
he is. So he was running for Senate. But I mean,
What were his policies? What
his
was
big thing he
pushes?
runs on is undocumented, you know, immigrants, which we all know is a new term for illegal immigrants.
Because illegal just has a negative
Yeah,
connotation.
but I mean, that's funny that a guy who used to hack basically goes from, he's also a supporter of the whole, he's always thrown around the undocumented immigrant thing. So I think that was one of his big things that, and then it was typical, more left type stuff. I don't remember all the details. I just know that it was a lot of let's spend money, which I'm kind of concerned about because that's how New York State got themselves into trouble a little. But
yeah, was he part of the group that wanted to pull Texas out of the union?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
Does anybody remember that was back in like 2013 or something like that? They were talking about taking it out of the union.
I've heard they've done it a few times. Like I think since I moved down after that, I haven't heard it since I've been down here. But I think it's a similar thing like we get in New York, where people are trying to pull like separate New York City from New York State.
They want to be like their own sovereign nation.
Yeah. Well, or like how New York State wants to separate from. Yeah, I guess they want to be their own sovereign nation, whereas like New York State and California have things where half the state wants to remove themselves from the rest of it.
It kind of sounds like Pretoria from Family Guy, where he just started his own town.
Oh yeah.
You know, it sounds like a big
This is
joke
my
that's
own
never going to
country.
happen.
Yeah.
But like if California wants to float off into the ocean, sure. See ya.
Let them go.
No one's going to miss you. Bye-bye.
Well, my big thing of all that is that I understand the frustration of letting Washington dictate so many of your laws, especially when you have laws that stateside are not illegal, like things like substances and things like that, but then federally they're still illegal and enforced. So you end up in situations like Michigan where you had entire legally funded, tax-paying growing ops for like weed farms that could just get ransacked by the FBI because it was still technically federally illegal, even though they were doing everything stateside legally.
That's interesting.
That was a while ago, so maybe they've changed the law a little bit to prevent that from happening. But I saw a couple of really good documentaries on it. So I understand that frustration, but at the same time, you think about how much infrastructure there is from the United States government for every state, that to think that they could just pull out and be like, "Oh, we're gonna be fine."
Yeah.
Nothing will change. They're gonna be great. Like I don't know.
So going back on it all, my biggest issue with this whole problem is you have everybody out on a witch. Not saying I support Trump, everything he does or whatever. Like I do support some of his policies. Not saying all of them, but like Beto O'Rourke. These people are supporting somebody who is doing things illegally, but they're condemning someone who they're saying is doing things illegally, but hasn't been proven to do anything legally yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so they're trying to dig up every little bit about that guy, but now they're saying, oh, well, this guy did this for all these years, but let's donate him $6 million towards campaign. It's like, okay, so you're saying that it's okay to break the law, but for Trump to break the law, it's not okay.
Well, so Rourke is a Democrat, I assume.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if we've learned anything, it's that they're above the law. So
I just want to add to like the whole him being like a supporter of, helping undocumented immigrants. I think we all said this on the show before, but just to like reiterate, like I'm not against immigration. I just want it to be like organized and done in like some kind of organized manner, not just let people freely come over. It's like
because then it's just going to turn into slums everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it just depends. I mean,
not saying it's just that, but like everybody, it's just like there's going to be no housing. It's just going to be a mess.
My thing is like the taxpayers' money gets diluted pretty fast when you're bringing people into the situation that weren't part of it originally. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, if there's a right way and a wrong way to do anything, you should always try to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Like while we were eating lunch today, they had a news article on the television. That was a good sentence, right? They had a news story about how lobbyists in Albany were weighing the pros and cons of allowing undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses. I'm just like, how do you jump to that? Like, how do you get to that point where you're like, well, how about we worry about getting them documented and getting them citizenship legally before we even bother? Why would you just give them a driver's license?
I guess they're looking at it like the faster you get them integrated into, like the quicker they can become like a taxpayer.
Yeah, but think of the amount of money you're going to be spending on programs and stuff when you could just spend on a one-way ticket back home.
I always wonder a lot of that, like how much are you saving? Like people try to say that too. Well, if you give everybody healthcare, it's going to be cheaper. And I'm like, I don't know, because some people really abuse healthcare.
Well, exactly. Think about all of the help programs and care programs that New York State especially has.
Yeah.
Which, hey, don't get me wrong, I'm all for those. Like,
no, I think
people,
that
if you are, that can't work.
Yeah, if you're in a terrible, dire straits and you cannot humanly possibly help yourself, fine. But there are people out there that will abuse it.
People need to work.
Yeah.
It's the backbone of our culture.
And what do they call that? The healthcare where it's just the essential, like just what you have.
Medicaid.
What is it?
Medicaid.
Oh no, I meant like it's like an ideal or whatever, where you don't give them more than they need, but you make sure everyone's basic needs are met. So like,
you're talking about like an ideology.
Yeah, like when you're talking about, like when they talk about healthcare and free insurance, like I think that's okay. But when you're going there for, I don't know, liposuction or something, and people are paying for it and you're on free insurance, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so there's got to be limits. There's got to be guidelines set. And, it works out in other countries like Europe. It works out great. But the thing is, we have to come up with a structured system. Right now, I went to apply for insurance. And last year, they based it on my pay where I had a decent paying job last year. and it was something like I was just applied for, which is like a New York State marketplace insurance, which is like a regular insurance. It was $384 a month.
Yeah.
For a single person.
A couple years ago, I was in between jobs, and I went to go look at the marketplace too to see what they could do, and they're like, you're gonna have to pay $400 a month, and I was like, well, with what? And they're like, well, you made income this year. I'm like, yeah, and I paid rent and everything with that income. Like, it's not like it's sitting in my bank account.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the screwed up
It's
thing
sad.
about it, though, right? I mean, at least now we aren't getting
Fined for
penalized anymore,
Yeah.
like when Obama was
I
in
got
charge.
fined
They
for
tell
so
us to
many
take
years
care
for
of ourselves, and then they
fine
don't even
you.
allow us to take care of ourselves.
Well, I don't even
too
know
expensive.
really what it covers anymore because, like, I'm paying about $60 a month, whether I use it or not,
And
right?
it barely pays for anything.
And
You got
whenever I go to the
co-pays,
doctor,
everything.
I'm still owing like $100 every
Yeah,
time
yeah,
I
and
I
go.
feel like-
nothing for the one you have, nothing like happens until you reach your $60.
Yeah, the only
$6,100.
yeah,
limit.
exactly.
Wow,
The only way that it would
6,100?
ever
No,
yeah.
up here it's like 6,600 was the one up at the college. It's a high deductible.
I had
Yeah.
ones before that were 2,000, and I was like, oh.
That's
so
how they
you
do it now.
literally have to
All high
basically
deductible.
go in because you broke your
Catastrophic.
leg. You
Yeah.
have
Surgery.
If I was
Some
in a
kind of
car accident or
catastrophic-
something.
like a
injury.
hospital, like an extended stay in the
Yeah.
hospital. You're
But
set.
I hate
But
that.
then it's
It's like, even if you think you have strep throat, you're like, I'm going to wait it out longer because I don't want to go pay if I don't
Right.
need to, because I'm going to have to pay out of pocket even though I have insurance. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You're like, I feel like shit, but I'm still gonna wait it out because
Well,
it's
that's
gonna
why-
cost $1 million.
that's how you end up with these
doctor.
diseases getting communicated and all that stuff too, like the cold, the flu, and all that stuff, because people are afraid to use their right to healthcare, I guess,
Yeah.
because it's too expensive.
yeah, in fear of the cost, I guess. So,
But I guess we turned this into a little bit of a hodgepodge for politics. But I
Yeah.
think we got our point across.
yeah.
Using this
That's
GI
it,
Joe, tell us where the health insurance company touched you. Moving on to our next, moving on to our next beer and our next topic. We're going to talk about life. So,
Life.
what better way to accompany life than a lovely Belgian-style session ale from Allagash,
Ooh.
all the way from Portland, Maine.
Ooh.
This is called the River Trip.
I bought these the other day. I forgot about those.
Oh my god!
Oh,
Do we have the other one?
Yeah, it's in here. So this one's from Maine, with love.
With love.
With love.
With extra
Six bucks
love.
a can.
Yeah. 4.8% alcohol, 16 fluid ounces, more to go around. It says a companion to backyards, backwoods, and balconies alike. This Belgian-style table beer packs an array of melon, citrus, and stone fruit notes. Brewed with coriander and dry hopped, good for any adventure. So this would have been great for Ron's adventure at South by Southwest last week, because it's
Oh.
great for any adventure.
How was that, by the way, Ron?
Yeah, let me get into
Dug
that.
into a little bit about last week. You said you were heading out.
Do you want to take a moment to sip those beers and give a reaction, or do you want to give the reaction after?
Yeah, we're pouring.
You know, like,
We'll talk about it while
yeah,
you're
we're
gone.
riding the river, bud.
Yeah, you dig in. Start
Alright.
digging in and tell us about it.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get back into this then. So what happened was last week I mentioned I was going to South by Southwest, the gaming festival portion,
Hat on
to be
this.
specific. I typically stay away from this because it's a giant festival that gets out of hand and, like, you know, it increases crime and shootings and everything else. But it's
Did you say
also
something
like
about the heat signature.
yeah, I'll get to that too.
Yeah.
But it was like a 2-week festival, so it does film, music. If anyone's not familiar with it, just look it up. But I did the gaming portion because it was cheap. They gave for locals, they give an option for a wristband for like $40 for 3 days. So I was like, I'll check it out, and it kind of gave me a way to organize it, because in the past I went and it's really just a mess. It's unorganized. So I went down there and not knowing what to expect, and it ended up being pretty cool. So they had panelists that did like talks on various topics, and I initially was kind of not sure about doing that, but that ended up being some of my favorite portions, because you kind of get game industry professionals talking about certain topics. So
Some insider insight.
yeah, it's cool. It was definitely a cool thing. And then of course they have the usual like tournaments and
Streamers.
stuff like that going on. So
Was Ninja there?
Ninja was not there. They said that he was
Loser.
he had some kind of promotional thing with Samsung
He
the
was,
next day in New York City.
He was playing Fortnite for Beto O'Rourke's campaign.
No, he did. You said there was a big phase player there, right?
There was
Decent.
there's some streamers there. The interesting part is there could have been a lot of famous people, because those streamers just look like regular people. So I mean, like, I don't know.
No,
Like,
who's
they-
the phase guy though? You said it was like phase.
Oh no, there's a dude
Liquid,
Hungry
right?
Box.
Hungry Box.
Hungry
Yeah,
Box.
so he did
Who's
like
he
a
play
live
for?
he did like a live stream, and he's like a Smash Brothers pro.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he was inviting people on stage and beating up on them. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
Making them hate their lives.
Yeah, but it was all done in good fun. Like he didn't really bust on people too hard. He just beat them up and moved on. So I think like the coolest thing, the topic I think that I was going to talk about actually for this part a tiny bit. We don't have to go crazy into it, but they had a panel talking about like the good, the bad, and the ugly of games pretty much, and they got into like a gaming addiction, and also about like the rating board and stuff like that for games.
They can frig off.
Well, and how,
about it,
but also
You
wait,
mean
hold on,
like
hold on, one more
leaderboards?
thing, and how after every shooting, like games get blamed.
But that's been going far back as like
Oh, I know, but
Columbine.
No,
yeah, Doom and
Doom.
Yeah,
Columbine.
but so it was an
Doom?
interesting topic to.
It's just another excuse.
But I figured
to
the
use.
professionals would sit there and defend like these people that whine about all that, you know, after the fact. But they were kind of the opposite. They were like, people need to take more interest in their kids, you know, and like raise them properly.
Well, but
Exactly.
that's kind of been what people said
Yeah.
for a while though. Like, so Jack Thompson was a big opponent of video games back in the 90s to the early 2000s, and he was constantly trying to blame video games for violent crime. And so specifically, he was targeting Grand Theft Auto, which I understand because it is a simulator of crime and violence.
But do you really think that I'm gonna just go play Grand Theft Auto and decide I'm gonna go steal a car and go shoot some
When
people
you
up
look at
street?
the
No, I'm
vast,
sorry.
when you look at just like insurmountable number of people who play these games and can cross-check that with how many people commit those kinds of crimes, it's obvious that the games aren't to blame.
Yeah.
But at the same time, actually Adam Sessler from G4 TV and Revision 3 games afterwards, and now he's totally out of the video game. Well, kind of. He helped make the Friday the 13th game. He was like a consultant, industry consultant. But he kind of got out of it. But he was one of Jack Thompson's biggest opponents. And he would go on CNN and Fox News and all that stuff and talk on behalf of video games as like a culturally significant art form and all that stuff, and say that you can blame them. And he had a good one of his favorite quotes on the subject. He was on, I think it was CNN, and he was saying that to blame video games for violence in our community is kind of absurd because as far back as Pong, there has been violent crime, and even before that. So, to say that, somebody was playing Pong on their Atari and was like, "I'm gonna go shoot my neighbor."
Yeah.
It just
They actually,
it didn't happen that way.
it's funny you mentioned
so.
that because on that panel, a guy pulled on one of the slides. They showed a quote from someone, and they were talking about paraphrasing basically that the games are giving people a vehicle to do violent things, and then he's like, and this was a quote from, I forgot, it was like 1979 for this death race game from Atari. And
Okay.
it's kind of funny that it's always been there. But I think it was interesting hearing from him. And there was actually a girl on the panel, like you're saying, there's a girl who worked in DC, and she was like a litigation specialist or something. She did something where she spoke on behalf of gaming, and now she does consulting.
Mm-hmm.
So she works with different ones to basically
So she was like kind of like a champion.
for gaming.
For video games.
So it was
Okay.
cool. It was cool to hear all their perspectives. But
See, but that's kind of the immortal argument, though, right? Isn't it? Because why would you only hold video games accountable and not like television or music or movies or books?
So
Or why can't you hold
Or-
the people accountable?
one of those
themselves?
guys
Right.
mentioned
Or-
that, and he's like, I think it's the fact that gaming, even though there's a huge target audience, it's the fact that the rest of the world doesn't understand games still, and a lot of people that are in political positions are detached from gaming, like they never were gamers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like our
They
parents.
automatically
Our parents
demonize
don't know
games for things, and they let things pass because someone brought up an argument about how right after the shooting in Florida, the school shooting, there was a guy in Russia that made a game that was just shooting up classrooms, and the Steam or whoever was like, no, we're not putting that game out. So there's self-regulating things about the industry already, where they're not accepting. There's another game where they showed rape, you would rape someone, and the girl in the panel is like, this is just disgusting. It's not really anything that's helping the United States,
And these are games that are just not gonna ever make it.
Yeah,
on
they're
the
not stuff that
market,
people
you know
really
what I
want to play anyways, which is funny because people think the
Right.
gamers want to do all this evil stuff, and it's like, no, they don't. And he showed the
Yeah.
coolest thing is he had stats, and I wish he put the source, but it showed violent crime over the years versus game sales, and game sales went up, and violent crime has went down. So overall,
Well, if you think about it, let's say you do have, and this is of course all conjecture, but let's say that you do have these violent tendencies and you want to go out and shoot somebody or something like that. If you can get the satisfaction without committing crime by playing a video game,
Yeah.
even if that's not what the game was designed to do, if you were able to fulfill that boost in
feeling or whatever.
endorphins doesn't that make games almost like a
like Zilla.
hotline
Yeah.
that way? Where
Yeah, like think about Zilla. After a long day, you want to come home and play some games. It's like your stress relief. You know what I mean?
it's just me and my bros.
And maybe some-
No, it is. It's like a
And maybe if
stress
it's
relief.
violent, you're like, I just feel like shooting people today in the game, but like I don't feel like want to shoot people in real
I'm
life.
not gonna- yeah, I've never had the feeling to
It's
go out and
not
just
going
blow
back to
somebody up.
politics, but it's like kind of like the argument I use for guns in real life, real
Yeah.
life right now. Like, oh, it's the gun's fault. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're
it's
vilifying
not
the wrong
gun's
thing.
And it's the same
fault.
thing-
Like, whether it had all these crazy attachments or not,
Yeah.
it's still the person doing.
you wanna hear
it.
one of
It's
the
still
best-
the person that's
The best things
coming
I
up
ever
with
saw
this.
was a guy says, I went on my porch. He goes, I took my 12 gauge, took the bullets out of it, put them in the chair, and left it on the porch all day long. He goes, I came home, came back out. The gun was still sitting there. The gun didn't load itself up and go shoot anybody. Like the gun stayed on the porch in the spot it
Exactly.
was with the bullets in the chair. The gun didn't load itself up and just start shooting.
Also, I
everybody.
think like Johnny was saying earlier too, which they made that point about the games too, is like if there's a violent game and there's hundreds of thousands of people that play this game, maybe millions, and then
like 7.5
and then
million
one
people
person
playing Apex
goes on a
right
crazy
now.
shooting, and they're like, it's the game's fault. And the same thing can be said about the guns. Like, how many
Like, it's
people own
brainwashing,
guns or
yeah.
multiple guns, and then how many of them go on mass
Right.
shootings? Like 5 a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
those 5 are
Normally
why
the
we
guns
need
are
better
stolen,
laws. It's
or the
like-
guns are
Yeah.
like illegally bought, like
acquired. Yeah.
What are you trying to say, Adam?
The thing is like, it's if they want to make better laws, okay, take away guns, okay. Well, I just don't see how that's gonna stop
illegal.
somebody that's a psychopath
Or the black market.
from going out there and doing something.
Well, right, because that's the whole point, right? It's
it's
illegal.
not gonna stop them.
It's illegal to commit murder.
Just think about it, Adam. What happened to France?
Oh, make
So-
it harder. Okay, make it
A truck.
harder. But what's still gonna
Yeah.
happen?
Are they going to ban trucks?
It's still gonna fucking happen.
Yeah, in China,
You
a
know?
dude went around with hatchets at UT here like a year ago. Some guy ran around
Yeah.
with a knife and stabbed people. So it's like,
yeah, like are they
It's
going to
like
ban
somebody
knives?
could go
Or
on
they-
like
hammer.
a freaking hammer spree. Are you gonna take hammers away?
Yeah,
Well, that happened in London
You know,
because
like, come on.
the police don't carry firearms.
killing people.
And I can't remember if it was ISIS or some terrorist organization blocked off London Bridge and just went around with machetes and started killing people. And it wasn't until SWAT showed up finally that they were able to apprehend them and stop them because the police didn't have guns, the people didn't have guns, so they were at the mercy. You're always going to be at the mercy of someone who has the upper hand. It's not the guns.
Yeah.
Guns are just, if anything, keeping guns legal ensures that everybody at least has the opportunity to be on even ground.
Yep.
Because if everybody can own one, then no one person is going to be oppressed.
Mhm.
Exactly.
But that's not how they see it. And this is kind of getting
yeah, I
off
don't
the-
mean. I was gonna say we
the
should probably route.
foundation of the argument a
Yeah.
little bit, but
Well,
yeah, but you cannot hold an
But going
object or
back
a
to the
video game
games,
or a medium
yeah.
responsible for the actions of another individual.
So what,
Exactly.
Zilla? To end it off, what do you think? What is your feeling on this whole thing, though? Like, how do you?
On
Feel,
which part?
Since you were at the conference about the whole video game
Oh.
and like the
And, like,
violence
addiction.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just
think-
want to hear your point of view since
You
you
know,
were
I
there.
think I personally think that people like the addiction part is more like the person, and I think as they said, a lot of that is the parents. Like, the guy was like, well, how do I stop him? And they're like, it's your kid. You know what I mean? And then the guy's like,
Yeah.
how do I filter what they play? Because he's like, I look online at trailers.
Don't buy it.
And
for
then
them.
the people were like, well, there's a rating board you can look at. And then he's like, yeah, but it doesn't tell everything in the game. And they actually had legit a guy in the audience who worked for the ESRB or whatever it's called.
ESRB,
And he was
yeah.
like, I work for them and we have an app and it tells you every bad thing in the game that made it that rating. He's like, we have to be careful because sometimes it can be a spoiler, which I didn't even know that existed. But the guy in the audience was just like, well, how far do I have to go, to like research? And I'm thinking like, dude, as far as you need to.
You're raising
it's
your
your
children,
kid,
for
yeah.
Christ's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you don't want to put the effort in, then that's subject to whatever happens.
That's a whole
then,
separate topic,
know?
but like people that say, oh, it's a lot of work having kids. Yeah, I know. So don't have them. Like
Yeah.
you didn't have to.
It was your choice to have the kids. It was your choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't want them playing certain games, or if people are allowed to do what they
Yeah.
want. They can put out whatever games they want. Yes, the video game people can control it and say, okay, this can come out or this can't come out. Okay, but still, if they think it's good enough, it's gonna go out. And if you as a parent think that game should not come out, you should straight up be like, okay. Or if you don't think your kid should have that, then you should be like, okay.
Well, there's
you're not
a
gonna
lot.
Play it.
There's
Don't-
so many pushover
Don't try to say, oh,
parents.
well, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a good
It's
enough
too much work.
detail
Yeah, yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
or it's too much
Well,
work.
but that's just like people that like want to own a dog, right? Because they think it's great owning a dog, but they have no responsibility with it, and they don't take care of it. They don't like. It's like if you're not prepared for that responsibility, don't try. Like if it's really not that hard to do. And I've witnessed in like I've been at GameStop before or whatever, and I've seen like two old ladies talking like, "Oh, my grandson's 10. I'm gonna buy him the brand new Call of Duty game," and I've been like, "Yo, you realize this is rated M for like 18 and up, right?"
Yeah.
Like, well, but he had the other one. I'm like, yeah. Well, that doesn't mean that you should have this one.
But all in all,
That was
like,
all
Zilla,
stupid.
how
Yeah.
did you? How much fun did you have there? Did you
Yeah, it
have
was a good time. It was a real good time overall, and I'd probably do it again
You go
next year.
again, or
Yeah.
would you do the bigger package?
Oh no, I never.
Ron
I,
always
the
likes the
music.
bigger package.
I never would. I never would pay for the badges because they're like. I want to say the platinum badge is $1,600
Oh, wow.
Jesus.
for
That's
2
good
weeks,
to
and you
know.
can see everything. But like, who can really see everything? You'd have to take 2 weeks off of work and stuff. You know?
You have to get a hotel and stuff and stay.
Yeah,
home.
or just go
Well,
out every
Ron-
day. So it really wore me out for 3 days.
I'm just happy that you made it out of there alive, man. I mean, they were all playing video games. It's amazing they didn't just all
Oh wait,
kill
though,
each
Zilla,
other.
before we do end it
What?
quick, tell us about the heat signature.
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah. So the first night I was there, I went home. Like I always just get this feeling like things are gonna start popping off. Like it just gets that energy. So I went home at like 7:30, 8 o'clock that night, and then the next morning we see there's like 3 shootings. Not all of them downtown. Like they're scattered around, but like obviously it's probably related to the influx of people there. And then the next day, we saw a heat map that showed all the crime for just Saturday, and it was like hundreds of violent acts or theft, like just in a day. So it's pretty crazy.
That's crazy, right? Hundreds.
Were they all apprehended, or was there a
I
lot
mean,
of
I don't know.
unsolved
It was just
crime?
reported incidents, so it was pretty crazy though. But
Okay.
like a festival like that, the cops are just like 100% like.
Everybody's like, it's a goddamn video game.
So it was just the video game is just part of it, but they still had I think the music
Yeah.
portion was still going on, and
Well,
and
right. I mean, was
maybe the film festival.
ASAP Rocky there? Because he was probably just like,
Yeah, but we'll wrap that up. We like video
Next
games, so we'll talk about video games in the future. But
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
definitely should.
Moral of the story: Ron went to South by Southwest.
You had a great time.
and before we move on to the next topic, have Adam mention what he's gonna do next week, so we can look forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so next week for you guys, I'll tell you about my adventures up in. I'm going on a little wine tour for my buddy's bachelor party.
Where at?
We're just going like it's up in like Finger Lake area.
Okay.
Or over in Finger Lake area.
Yeah.
We're
You-
gonna.
Some of our listeners might be
I'll go.
below the Finger Lake area. It might be
yeah,
up for
over,
them.
So you're gonna.
but who knows? East, west, north, south.
But it's up by the
somewhere.
Finger Lakes.
But it's by the Finger Lakes. We're gonna go on a little wine tour.
Stay at
We're gonna
Del
start at Del Lago, finish at Del Lago.
Cool.
Um,
See if you see Taylor, tell me say hi.
okay.
She's still dealing up there.
All right. Yeah, it should be fun.
Doing what?
It's all my college.
Cards.
It's a couple of my college buddies, and yeah, I'm excited. But you guys will get to hear all about it next week.
Cool.
Cool.
I actually went on a bachelor/bachelorette wine tour out in the Finger Lakes, and it was a lot of fun. Although I tell you, it really tuckers you out.
Hopefully, no strippers
Wine
are
to get you
involved.
real warm.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's real warm and happy.
I would really hate to see a naked
just
woman. That would
really
really
Oh,
suck.
right? That would ruin my whole day.
Yeah.
Just ruined my day.
Me and my bros hanging out, having a beer, having a great old time.
This naked
This
lady
naked
showed up.
lady.
Walked up to us,
This lady just getting her tits out.
And I was just sitting there like,
just
bitch
flopping
ass.
her big old
Yeah.
titties all over the place.
All
My-
right, on to the
all
next
you
one.
know.
Ready?
Yeah.
You should-
All right.
All right. All
Our
right.
next beer.
So that's
So-
going in the podcast. by
Yeah.
the way.
What did everybody think of the Allagash? It
The
was
Allagash,
very easy
I
drinking.
thought
Can we give it a
Yeah.
1 to 5 rating? Because I know you guys, and I think I can judge based
So
on.
arbitrary.
No, but it
So
kind of
arbitrary.
isn't
I'll give it
because then
3.25.
per person you can judge kind of.
See,
what
I
they
would
think.
rather say, would you drink it
Okay,
again?
let's do that.
Would
Would you
I
look
drink
for it again?
Yes.
I'm not gonna go out of my way.
Rating of 3.25.
Like I'm not gonna go out of my way to drink it. 3.
Okay. How about you, Johnny?
I'd say 2. I don't normally drink Belgians, but this one it wasn't super clovey, so that's
yeah,
alright.
and I'm not gonna like go out of my way and be
And like,
"Oh,
if I'm
I
gonna
need
drink a
that."
Belgian, it's gotta be really good.
But it's good. It wasn't horrible.
Yeah, I mean Allagash makes some really good.
They do.
Like they have a really good tripel called Curio that's aged in Jim Beam bourbon barrels with vanilla beans, and that's really good. And it's 11% alcohol.
Do you want to know who local makes a really good tripel? That's actually really amazing. Is Michael, the brewer over at Copper Turret in Morseville.
Oh, really?
Oh my!
I need to get out there
God.
sometime because I've heard they have some pretty.
They have a
substantial
Cherry Valley
beers.
coffee stout, which is fantastic. Also,
I've had that.
They have a good
actually.
tap
Yeah,
list
it's good.
there. They do. I've been.
I actually
For a local brewery, like a college brewery, too. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I'm gonna go again this year, but I actually went to the Madison County Hop Festival last year, and that's in Oneida.
Yeah.
And they had
He won a bunch of awards last year.
yeah, and the Copper Turret had a presence there, but they were doing a pairing with they had this ice cream from Purity that was like a bourbon barrel aged
Was Gervain there?
toffee. I didn't see him there, but it was like a toffee vanilla bourbon barrel aged ice cream, and then they had it with that Cherry Valley porter, but they had let the porter age in a bourbon barrel too. And they made a float out of it. It was so freaking good.
We were going to go to the Hop Fest one year. The cool thing about that was if you volunteer to pick the hops, you get to do the whole special festival party thing with Saranac. It seems like it's a good time.
Just remember, always wear gloves when you're picking hops.
Why's that?
Lots of estrogen in hops.
Oh.
That's why male hop farmers have really
What if I
big
wanted boobs, though?
titties, yeah. If you want a boobs, fuck it. Pick it with your teeth. I don't
Want
care.
some boobies to flop around.
All right. Well, anyway, so
And we're back
much
to
ado.
the Variety Pack podcast.
we're gonna be drinking another local beer today. It's the New Juice IPA, Juicy India Pale
New
Ale
school. New
from
Juice.
Southern
Very
Tier Brewing Company
I
out
know
of
this
Lakewood, New York. It's a
Good brewery.
pint
Is this playing in your
can.
new school?
It's They actually have it at the Dome. It's
Have
really
any
good.
have any
Yeah.
of you been to Southern Tier's Brewery?
I have
No.
not, but I
No,
really
I
want to
really
go
wanna go
because
too.
they have.
We
a
went
lot
out there
of-
one
They
time.
also-
It is really, really far. So get yourself ready for
Yeah.
a road trip.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll take a
Lakewood.
bus.
It's all the way down
Yeah.
on the
Downstate.
border.
Because you get to
Yeah.
Buffalo and you think like you're almost there and you're like, oh no, there's a ways.
3 hours more. Yeah.
That's a ways.
Don't they also have a winery and a distillery?
Maybe when I went, they might have just
Kinda
had
like
the
Three
distillery. We probably
Brothers.
went 5 years ago, but it's a cool brewery. They got a restaurant kind of like Empire does, like a.
Did you try their hoppy single malt there? While
I
you were
tried
there?
everything at the time, but they didn't have a lot of the new stuff that they have now. Like they just
Yeah.
came.
The whiskey.
They came out with the one with the microphone on it. What's that called? Live.
live. Yeah.
Oh, live is
Yeah.
tasty, though. I really like
They just came out with that
I
when I
like
went
it
down there,
it
and it was a
first
good
came out.
time.
It's better now.
Live's good. They have Tangier's
But
good.
didn't they,
2X
Zilla, what
Dash.
was that one beer? Was it Live or Tangier? Tangier, they made more orangey, right?
Tangier, yeah.
I love Tangier. That is
You
one
got
of my
just
favorite
try the
beers.
overpack. The overpacked pack.
Yeah, if
oh,
anybody wants a suggestion, the
Oh.
Overpack by Southern Tier, you can get it at like local grocery stores. It's like a 15 pack. It averages around what, $16.99.
Local if you're in
Dude,
New
Blue,
York.
Blue Tusk used to rock that IPA from them on Nitro. That was a serious experience. If you ever get the chance.
I love Nitro.
No, but an IPA on Nitro
Love
is
it.
crazy because it's
Could
real.
you imagine the 2X mash
Yeah.
on
That would
Nitro?
be so good.
But they make it so creamy and like
IPA
it changes
Nitro.
the whole taste of the IPA. It comes off like softer. It's not so edgy with the hop.
I want to try
Yeah.
it now.
Soft.
You should go down to
You
Blue
soft.
Tusk. Blue Tusk used to do it ever occasionally. You should check it out.
Huh? I'll have to check it
If
out.
you love spending more than double the
If you like
price of a
$9
normal beer,
beers,
Yeah, if you would like to spend
Go to the
$10 on a
Blue
Coors
Tusk.
Light, you head down to the Blue Tusk.
how do you want to order your sandwich? You walk up and order it yourself. What about when it's ready? You come and get it yourself. That'll be $15.99. Do I at least got a pickle? You don't got shit.
No soup
Come to the
for
Blue
you.
Tusk.
I used to go there a lot, so people would
No
hook me up with
soup.
tastings. So like I'd get in there and they'd be like, "Have you tried this, that, and this?" And I was like,
They'd be like,
yeah, I was real excited.
oh my God, Mr. Zilla.
No, but
Thank you for once again gracing
no,
us with your
I honestly was
presence."
like such a regular fixture down there for a while. I'd go down and just pop in for like an hour, like 4 times a week, and grab something. Taste.
Did you say you were ensconced there?
I don't know what that means.
A regular fixture.
And he spilled beer. Every podcast.
He's cut off.
Every damn.
It's
Cut
another
him
one.
off.
He spilled
You guys
it
drink the
again.
last beer.
Yeah, he spilled it everywhere.
This is not getting cut out either. We're leaving this so they know how long we had to
We
wait.
definitely
This
are.
has gotta stay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about how Johnny just runs off
Dude-
and
Dude's
spills
got to
beer
go
every
clean
time.
the mess up
Bartender, though.
again.
He's a bartender though. How is he spilling beer everywhere?
Yeah, you think you'd have steady hands from being a bartender?
That's
Like
why
a-
he's
it
half
just looks like a little stain like he's got on his jeans.
And I do mean little.
I wore white jeans.
Yeah, little.
All right, on to top of the hour.
Top of the hour.
Top of the hour, everyone.
You're taking this one.
Top of the hour to you. That was for yesterday, for St. Patty's Day.
Oh.
Top of the hour.
Hot
Hey,
cha-cha-cha,
before we do top of the hour,
hour.
did anyone do anything cool yesterday for St. Patty's Day? Or?
Yeah.
Johnny got really drunk.
I got
passed out,
real-
didn't he?
Well, that was real cool.
Yeah.
passed out.
So cool. I'm the only one who went and got really drunk yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, I had a few beers, but I just kind of relaxed and chilled. I'm not really into the whole.
I watched Lexus.
I'm into the food on St. Patty's Day now. I like all the Irish food. We had soda bread, we had Reuben soup, we had all
Soda
the good
bread.
So
pop,
good.
sodas.
Can we talk about something real quick while we're on the subject of St. Patty's Day?
I'll allow it.
A friend of mine works at. No,
Veto.
I'm vetoing it.
Vito.
Vito.
I know it was you, Vito. No, a friend of mine works at Upstate, and she said, so just for a little context for those of you not from the area, Syracuse has a huge Irish festival the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day every single year. And it's pretty much wholesale debauchery, green beer. And a friend of mine works at Upstate, which is a hospital, and she said that as she was leaving work around 4 p.m., that they had carted in no less than 22 people with alcohol poisoning.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
They get hot.
I
they
know.
get
Syracuse
hot.
does drink.
Christ.
Probably all college students.
How do you
too,
get
I'm
to that point? You're out in public. It's not like you're just sitting at home drinking
What happened
liters
last
of vodka.
St. Patty's Day with Sarah?
Well, hold on, just quick. Let me comment on that quick. So when I was going to OCC, there was this kid there, and he had a friend that came from Kansas, and he was like, we used to play. It's that weird kid actually. We used to play Call of Duty with Shane.
Squirrely.
So his friend got on and was like, "Wow, all people do in Syracuse is just drink all the time." And he's like, "Pretty much, dude. You can do drugs. That's it."
Well, and I mean, I like drinking as much as the next guy, but I can't imagine getting alcohol poisoning in public. Like, that's bad.
I feel like some people do that multiple times. You know, like I feel like I'm not gonna do this. Never mind.
Like,
What was that?
I was gonna go somewhere, but I won't. Not an episode.
You gotta
2.
know me first.
Well, you know,
I was gonna compare drinking yourself silly
Fucking
to something
yourself
else,
silly?
but I won't. So.
I've gotten sex poisoning before.
Oh.
Is that an
He got
STD?
fucked. So
In
Yeah,
his
that's
dreams.
While we're on the subject of drinking, you know, it's a great place to get alcohol poisoning is college. But not everybody can get into college. But then again, not everybody has rich parents. So
if you're really motivated, you can just get alcohol
true.
poisoning at home.
Yeah, but if
without
your parents
college.
want to pay
Doesn't
$6 million,
matter.
you can go to college and not even have to take your SATs.
yeah, and then
Or
they
do
don't even
anything.
have to drive
You
you to
just get in.
upstate. Yeah.
My biggest thing that comes to this whole thing of celebrities and other parents paying for
Influential people.
paying for their children to basically either get more time on a test or get rigged tests so they can pass. My thing is if it was your parents and you didn't know about it and you went and took all the tests and everything, you got into your dream school, let's say, how would you feel now?
Oh, this is
All
a
of
good
you.
angle. This is a good angle.
How
I've
would you
never
all
thought
feel
about
now?
this.
I'd be like, thanks a lot, mom and dad. You're amazing.
Yeah, Adam. they
'Cause
all
I'm not
know.
good
They
enough.
all know.
No, they said the majority of children or the majority of the kids did not know that their parents
No,
were
I'm
doing
willing
this.
to bet. I'm willing to bet there's a certain amount of disappointment, but then some of them never had to work in life either because
So they probably don't understand the
wealthy.
disappointment anyway.
Well,
and they don't care.
well,
They're just like,
okay.
cool, I got it.
Well,
anyway.
that's a hypothetical. But while we're dealing in hypotheticals, though, like that's a good point that I hadn't really even dawned on me. Like, suppose that these kids were perfectly capable of getting into these colleges, and they really wanted to get in, but their parents wanted to make sure that they got in.
yeah.
And now they're not allowed to get in because of something their parents did. Like, would you ever? How long would you ignore your mom in the hallway while she's doing your laundry? Do you think?
Right?
When you're making your hot pocket and she says, "Hey, can I have one too?" and you just slam the microwave door and be like, "No."
I don't know. How long would I be mad at my millionaire parents for paying for
Right,
me to go to
right.
college?
From what I
You know what
understand,
Like-
it wasn't all millions.
No,
Some
I
of
mean it
pretty
was from
modest.
thousands to millions. Like some.
No,
some
no,
of
I
the-
meant that the people were ultra wealthy.
Well,
that
yeah,
were doing
majority
this
of
for the
them
most
were
part.
wealthy,
Yeah.
rich people.
Yeah. But I think there's probably a certain amount of disappointment because there has to be some of those kids that wanted to do something on their own just because they are in that
And they're just
situation.
too-
What
with
do you
their
think,
parents.
Shane?
They're always
Or
being
wealthy.
coddled.
Well, how would you
Yeah.
feel?
My thing is like I understand that they say that well these kids don't know, but there's got to be something they'd have to know. Like if you're doing shit in high school and then all of a sudden you're going to Yale or you're going to like a top school on a scholarship and you don't even play a sport, you know something's fucking wrong.
Well,
Come on,
yeah.
It's like,
come on, it's
He-
common sense.
is this kid a Playboy bunny? Because he's getting nothing but D's and he lives in a mansion.
Yeah,
It's like, no, but it's like it's common sense here. Everybody, it's common sense.
Boing, 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 boing.
If you're failing in school and then they say the one girl, Lori Laughlin's daughter or whatever,
was out
literally
on the yacht
partying.
with a USC official, the dean,
Oh yeah,
out on his yacht
good for him.
while this was all going down like a week or
Isn't
two
that how
ago.
those pornos start? You did very poorly on your test. I know how you can make it up.
So, I mean,
know
let me
what
ask
you're
everyone. Let
watching.
me ask everyone. Let's go around. Were you shocked? I wasn't to hear this.
Not at all.
Especially with Ivy League schools, they're also heavily influenced by clout.
Yeah, like alumni legacy, all that stuff.
You could have
all
the
that stuff.
dumbest kid in the world, but if you were a Yaley and you know that the dean is a Yaley because they're like students
Isn't
for
that how
life, basically.
Cornell is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
No,
any Ivy League.
you
We've
say
had
Cornell?
friends that literally,
Their parents went
well,
there.
their parents went. So they literally got into schools because of their parents went to that school before. So it was just alumni status. And they didn't have as good of grades and stuff like that, but they still got in because their family went there.
And then some people with better grades couldn't
Couldn't get in because
right?
their family didn't go
Yeah.
there. Which
Yeah,
I think that's absolute horseshit.
But I mean, that's how it's been for years for college.
Yeah.
That's why I wasn't surprised by this. I mean, is it unfair? Yes, but life is pretty unfair.
So much
too,
of college, though, and it's not just with like alumni status and stuff, but also with like HEOP programs and like affirmative action. There's a lot of situations where colleges are letting people in that maybe aren't the most qualified, but they get a leg up because of some particular reason. Like, it's not that unheard of in terms of university. Like, it's kind of just part of how it goes. Which is,
I feel like people always bring this up, but are you guys aware of the whole some of the Ivy League schools that are kind of being prejudiced toward Asians now because they make up a large percentage of their student body?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So they'll intentionally try to like not select more Asians because they're a large percentage.
Yeah,
which
because
I thought was
there are too
interesting.
many super smart Asians.
Because they're like a minority technically, but they're being treated as if like they're a majority.
Well, so
there,
how long
you know?
until, not to get off topic, but how long until illegal immigrants are offered free college because they haven't had it the easiest or whatever?
Isn't that happening in New York right now?
Oh,
or?
I don't know. I'd have to do some research into that.
Mm.
So here's my real question. Ron, if you ever had a little boy or a girl, would you pay for them to get into a college of your choice?
No, I wouldn't.
I'd be
about
like, you have to
school hard
work
knocks?
as hard as anyone else to get
Yeah.
what you deserve.
Yeah, I think a lot of that builds character, and I think a lot of people that skip that, you know, they may be.
Failure is good for you in life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
need to
and
fail
it's
to
not
learn
going
how to
to-
succeed.
I mean, it's great, you know, and I think bottom line that people with certain advantages definitely have obviously an advantage, you know, and they can move forward and get to that point in life they want to get to faster. But I think the people that don't are kind of a little more solid. Like they're more well-rounded to be able to deal with all types of situations
Yeah.
better, probably.
If you
Yeah.
struggle through adversity. I mean, you might get knocked down, but you just got to pick yourself back up again because they're never going to keep you down, buddy.
do, 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 do.
All right. Well, I think that's all the really interesting news right now. I guess all I can really say is study hard for the school you want to go to, and if you don't get in, that's okay because you can always be a steel worker.
And you can always have your
If you don't
parents
get in-
pay your way.
Yeah, if you don't get in, maybe your rich parents will still be able to sneak in and
Yeah.
pay for you.
Oh, I'm sure it'll still happen.
It'll be like the college sports stars where they can't give them any money anymore, but then the alumni just give them a credit card to
Exactly,
go buy what they
right?
want.
Well, how long do you think universities are going to be around? Like, in our culture, do you think they're going to live?
Traditional, another 10 years.
I was
maybe,
going to say
15.
maybe 40 because of the NCAA.
Yeah, maybe 20.
What do you
25.
mean? What do you mean?
You know,
Well, just because
fact that,
college
like-
is falling really far out of favor because there's no benefit to it anymore, really, other than connections you make. Like, you could walk into a job interview, and there's going to be 20 people who all have the same diploma that you have.
But it's all about who you know.
Yeah, and it's not
I mean,
necessarily
it's
gonna-
about who you know, and there's a lot of online resources
Yeah.
that are freely available that you can teach yourself.
Especially with
now
how
at
much
this point.
entrepreneurship is becoming popular amongst Americans, you know, where you have to make a job for yourself. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as important. It's definitely, it's not as important as it was when, you know, our parents were kids, where one person in the family would go off to college and then they would be set for the rest of their lives. Now it's like everybody can go and pay shit tons of money and be in debt for the rest of their lives, and it's still not even going to guarantee they get a job.
What do you think, Shane? How long?
I don't know.
How long will colleges be around
They're gonna be
traditional
around
ones?
forever. They've been around
You think
for
so?
centuries.
They've been around for like what? At least
You don't know
some of them
numbers.
a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
But what about that we never had the internet before and now we do?
Yeah. Well, and again, like I said, with like college sports being such a big thing, like if the colleges ever went away, now you're looking at an entire industry that's going to crumble because
Yeah.
It's not going to though. It's never going
But
to.
what
They
if
make
you
way
just
too much money
turned
just
college
to go
sports
away.
and what if college sports just became minor league sports? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
I mean,
Kinda like how we have
realistically,
minor
they
league baseball.
could.
I mean, the athletes aren't
Yeah.
going to school anyway, so.
Yeah.
Literally.
All right. Well, so I think that brings us around to the last topic of the evening, which is our food group.
Before we get into the food, let's open another beer.
Sure.
Our final one.
Oh, I have a final
And
one
let's
too.
get Zilla's final one in here, too.
Do yours first.
Zilla, I thought you'd never ask. So for the final brew of the evening, we're going to be drinking another local beer. The Ommegang Neon Rainbows New England Style IPA. This hails all the way from Cooperstown, New York. This is kind of out near Albany. for
We
those of
actually
you.
found this at Cat's Pizza the other
Yeah, we
day.
found this at Kaz Pizza.
And we were like, we need to get this.
I'm sorry, I zoned out. Which beer was it from Ommegang?
Neon Rainbow.
It's like one of the few non-Belgians. It's a IPA.
Oh, yeah.
New England IPA.
They do well with their
They
non-Belgians
do.
too, I think.
In fact, they
so.
should just.
Mm.
It's,
well,
a
they're own-
it's a New England. It's
yeah.
going to be good.
I mean, they're owned by a
Hazy.
Belgian company.
So they say.
No, yeah, Duvel bought them about.
And
3
while
years
you're
ago.
doing this, I'm going to show this can art because it's really fun.
Ooh.
This is the one I was going to look for this week.
It looks like
Oh, yeah, you found it?
Captain America.
Yep. So that's Awesome Beer Works logo, but if you look at the pattern, they've got all these like little hula dancers and lobsters
That's
on it.
sick.
The first time they canned this was this week for South by Southwest, so as like a celebration. And I'm hoping they're going to keep it around, so I'll jump into that. It's a New England IPA, 7%. Juicy, but it's not very hazy in comparison to one. I only know this because I had one the other day. But I'll bust
And
it
it's
out
made
for
by
a
Austin
tasting.
Beer Works, you said?
Yes,
So,
Austin Beer Works. one of the local
also, so
favorites.
everyone knows, just click on the link if you guys want to know more about the beer or.
Yeah, we'll be posting links. We'll be posting on our Instagram the names and the breweries, but we'll also be posting links in the YouTube description to all the different beers.
Yep.
So I gotta say, I'm surprised to see no Lord Hobo this week.
I know.
Well, we weren't able to make it out west to buy a few beers before the podcast recording. So
I actually bought a full 6-pack and left them at my buddy's house the other day.
This beer has a really great nose to it. It's like got a piney scent, and then it comes off juicy, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh, look how hazy this one is.
yeah, a little bit of sediment got into it at the last
could
bit of the
tell.
pour too. Looks like OJ.
See, they call this hazy, but it's not really.
That's
Ooh, look at that.
hazy for a West Coast brewery.
Shame.
Yeah.
The juice is loose, my boys.
You see this?
Is it in my mind, or is there like another layer?
It's a
Yeah,
layer
there
of
is.
beer.
Ugh.
Let's see how this tastes. Shane just drank it.
How's it, Shane?
Shane's a straight savage with these beers.
It's good.
He just pounds them.
Jimmy, what else besides good though? What else you gotta say?
Ooh.
It's just like it's light. It's very light.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Drinkable. It's a good summer beer.
Yeah, it's almost like a hazy fat ladle thing almost.
Yeah, I had first time I had this one. I went to go see a show at Ommegang, and they had just rolled it out.
It's not very hoppy.
Yeah, it's really
Good
not.
show.
It was Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Oh yeah.
and
were
the
praising
Head
it,
and the
right?
Heart. It was a great show. Absolutely.
Mm.
The thing just to like a little takeaway that I liked the most about it was Nathaniel had a really good, like almost Elvis Presley stage presence. But he had a guitar wrangler that stood on the back of the stage and would wait because every once in a while when he needed to change guitars, he'd literally unclip his strap and just chuck the guitar behind him like without looking. And this guy would just stare up in the sky and like move around and shuffle until he was underneath it, like almost like an outfielder, and catch the guitar and then walk away. And then when Nathaniel was ready for another guitar, he would just raise his hand up behind him, and the guy would have to fucking chuck it up in the air from backstage. And Nathaniel would catch it and then resume playing. He had like a zip strap guitar sling. It was really cool. But
I think that's one of the most original acts that came out recently for just like because it's not really original music, but no one really did it for a long time. I think they do it well.
yeah, and I liked his. I first heard about him by watching that Austin to Boston documentary on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And that was back when he was just a solo act. But once he joined up with the Night Sweats, like they have so much charisma. It's like a really great show.
Johnny wakes up the night sweats every night.
Yeah, I had the Night Sweats just last night. Why does it smell like vodka in here? I'm distilling my own spirits.
Something was deep inside of him.
All right, were we going on to fork knife or?
Yeah, we're moving on to fork knife. I will say this beer is very light. It's not very bitter hoppy, but
Yeah.
definitely very aromatic.
Would
Definitely-
you guys look for it again on the shelf, or is it just a one timer?
I drink it again.
I'd drink it again.
I drink it again.
It's pretty strong too for how light it is. 6.7%.
Yeah.
It tastes like a session. I get those all days.
Mm. And it's a double dry hop, which actually surprises me. It's not more bitter, but You know, it's Ommegang, so they're not. This isn't really their main thing that they do. So
Kind of like it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
On to fork knife. So me and my girlfriend Emily went out to eat the other day in Ithaca. We stopped at, I think it was called Ithaca Ale House. It's a cool place. It's pretty open, big place.
Nice ambiance in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what me and Emily. We were like, this is actually like it was like low light. It was cool. It was cool. I liked it. But they had a grilled cheeseburger, and I started reading the description. It was literally said 2 grilled cheeses, and then a burger inside. So I was like,
was it like on white bread?
it was literally two grilled cheeses on white bread, like normal white bread too, not anything spectacular. And then the burger and all the dressing, like the lettuce, tomato, onion, blah blah.
That's crazy.
So I
Looked
go
damn
to
good.
I go to eat it, and it like literally is pushing out. So I'm like, shit. So I came to the conclusion that it's best to just have one piece of bread on each side with the melted cheese. So you cook it like a grilled cheese still, but
Pull it apart.
but you don't have like actual grilled cheeses because it makes it so it's so slippery that you can't even eat it.
Well, so that would be my thing, right? If I were to prepare it at home, I would make it like I'm making a grilled cheese regularly.
Yes, with the burger inside of while you're making it.
Well, you could do that. You could
So-
even just
or
if you
just pull
grill,
it apart after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pull it apart or grill the bread with the cheese
Open
on. Let it
face,
melt.
open
Yeah,
face,
and then
yeah.
flip. Yeah, exactly.
What if you had a grilled cheese sandwich and then you cooked a burger and you put that on the grilled cheese and put 2 buns around it with all the toppings of the burger?
Sounds pretty
It's a
intense.
lot of bread.
It'd be kind of like a Big Mac.
It was good, but I mean, I've made them before.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. It was a good place. I mean, I would definitely recommend it for people.
Were you down there just to go down
Where
there?
I was hiking
Oh, okay.
to Gonic Falls.
Was it gorgeous?
That's a good place.
It was gorgeous.
I heard
It's
it
actually
was
really cool
gorgeous.
because it was like a really nice day out for how shitty it's been lately. And it was like the waterfall was flowing crazy. It was awesome. I liked it.
When it's nice weather, you can walk up that stream all the way to the
Oh,
waterfall.
I still did
Like-
that.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
that
fun.
you walk right up close, like not close, but close enough that you can feel the mist. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Mm.
Next thing we want to talk about is just more pizza.
More pizza.
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 Let's talk about pizza then. So at South by Southwest, I was lucky to go downtown where they have probably my favorite pizza place in Austin, and I had that 3 days in a row.
Really? You were just like pizza.
The Hoboken
Pizza.
pie.
What do I want
I was like,
tonight? Pizza.
I got there every day.
What do I want for lunch?
Two pieces
Pizza.
of pizza every day.
What do I want for dinner? Pizza.
Every day I was like 2 slices of pizza for lunch, and then sometimes 1 for dinner.
So what about a pizza
On the way
burger?
back.
You make a pizza, you cut out the square slice, and then you put a burger in between it, and put another piece of pizza, and you hold it. That'd be slippery as shit.
Slippery. Real greasy.
Real greasy.
No, but what if you just flipped them inward so the burger is on the inside of the cheese, and then you just hold
Have
the
you
crust on
ever-
the outside?
Ron,
Okay.
Have you ever had a burger
Mhm.
pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Really?
a
Make
fan.
them for you all the time.
Oh
Not a
yeah,
fan.
you're not a fan?
Johnny, I made them for
Not
you.
really
The
a fan.
final evolution. Kaz Pizza does that, and they put mustard and ketchup down as a base.
made 'em for you.
I know. I just think
Ooh.
Kaz
I
Pizza
think I did it
for a while.
first.
You did do it first. I'm just saying that they do it, and they put the pickles and the bacon and the American
Give
cheese.
the man some respect, okay?
Put
Jesus,
some
you
Monterey
want
on
some
there.
You should have said the first time I had it was when Shane made
The
it.
first time and the best time I ever had it.
Then Kaz Pizza ripped it off and
They
made
were
their
like,
own.
we heard all about it.
Where were we eating at? Empire or Juniors? Juniors, right?
I think it must have been juniors. I don't know. Was it even?
Had to have been.
Yeah. But either way, pizza.
Pizza.
I
We're
think that's it for the podcast.
Yeah, we're all pizza fanatics around here, so feel free to leave your comment.
And see
Where
what
we
everybody-
should go eat.
Yeah.
see what everybody thinks about
Yeah,
us
I'd be
doing a live
interested. I'd be
stream.
interested to hear if there was pizza places outside of Syracuse that people know of that we might not know
Yeah.
of. Like maybe on the other side of the city, because you guys, we all know the Manlius, Cazenovia.
If we can get 100
Fayetteville
likes, I'll
area.
eat a whole pizza.
100 likes
whole-
for pizza each
A
of
whole.
us.
It's gonna be one of those bagel bite pizzas.
No, it'll be a large pizza, 16-inch whole pizza.
Large, 60
One sitting.
inches.
We're thinking
All
about
of us
doing.
will record it,
Mhm.
and we'll have an eating contest.
Listen, what we'll
between the
do-
4 of us.
What we'll do is
We
we'll,
get
eat a
100
pi- we'll,
likes.
we'll each eat a whole pizza. If we get 100 likes, we'll each eat a whole pizza, and then we'll randomly select somebody and we'll give them a free pizza.
Yep.
How's
We're-
that sound?
Can you still order pizzas like on Domino's.com?
Yeah.
Have them
Who-
delivered to you?
We'll just randomly pick a number out of one of the likes and we'll send them
Yeah.
a free pizza or a
Yeah.
gift certificate for a free pizza.
And we're actually talking about once Ron gets here doing a pizza taste off.
Live.
Pizza
Live.
Showdown.
Live.
Pizza Showdown. Get a slice.
Yeah.
So keep,
But we're gonna
keep
do it.
tuned.
But we're gonna do it blind though. We don't want him to know where they came from
Nope.
because we don't want any bias. We know that
that's fine.
Ron's a very biased person.
He's a
so.
very.
I feel like it's a
biased
win-win-win situation because I'm gonna eat pizza. I'm gonna eat pizza.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Ron's
eat
like,
pizza.
I don't give a friggin' heck. I just want
so
pizza.
much pizza.
It's gonna be better pizza than when I get here, and that's what I'm happy about. That's all.
All right, well, thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Variety Pack podcast. We really thank all of our support that we've gotten so far after our first episode. There's many more to come. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we want to thank all of you for checking out the first episode that we put up.
Got quite a few reach on it.
Yeah. So
Keep sharing,
subscribe.
follow.
Give us some feedback on
watching.
YouTube.
Give us
Yeah,
feedback.
definitely want.
Operate.
Feedback.
Operate under the assumption that we have no idea what we're doing. Just kidding.
Even though we're professionals.
We will be integrating a video.
Pros.
We will be implementing video into the podcast as well.
One
Johnny
day.
tells us he's gonna
We
make
wanna
a
keep
pro
our-
level soon.
Pro level.
Yeah.
We want to keep our identity secret for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, at least for Ron Zilla. Just wear a
Yeah.
bag on your head or a Mitt
Yeah,
Romney mask.
Dude.
That would be the best when I finally show up. I'll
Yes.
just wear a bag and then I'll eat pizza through the bag.
Yes.
You get pizza smeared all over your little car.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll
Thanks,
see you
everybody.
later.
Have a great
Take it
day.
easy.
Be safe out there. Keep your kids in school. Just don't pay for it.
Make sure you watch what video games they play.
Yeah. See ya.
Yo, 99 bottles of beer up on the wall. I wanna crack into the one and all. So many different flavors I can never keep track. I think it's high time I crafted a variety pack. It's a variety pack podcast for brothers in the pack, making magic of a knack for the facts. They're so whimsical and mystical, clever with the subjects, bumper physical or digital. And if you want, then you can like, share, and comment. Subscribe to us and we'll respond by making content oh so hot and fresh, I promise. With a variety of different topics, we keep it topical. Beers and bros as hot as global warming, heat and tropical. Logical, but living every day like our last. You are now tuned in with the crew. It's the podcast.
And that's a wrap.